Hello and welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth. I am also known as Notorious RVG. During the time I worked with ACLU, I encountered legal aid attorneys and was always impressed with their dedication and good work. I realized that I do not know much about legal aid of North Carolina. I have wondered what legal aid really is. How is legal aid able to serve all those that are eligible for its services? That legal aid not only provides services in specific areas, but to target populations, such as veterans, seniors, Native Americans, and victims of trafficking. Equally important is what are the services legal aid provides? Well, to answer those questions, I ask that you join me in a series of interviews about getting to know legal aid of North Carolina. I promise you that I and you together, we will learn what legal aid is and what services it provides. Welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth. Some people call me RVG. I think I prefer to be called Justice. This interview is about a series of interviews about getting to know legal aid. It is a quest of mine. I want to know about this firm. And today, we will get to know about the practice in the consumer area of legal aid. In dedicating its limited resources to consumer practice, legal aid's goal is to promote economic stability for individuals and families. Last year, legal aid handled close to 4,000 cases in the consumer practice. So we are lucky today to have Suzanne Binoche to take us through this process. Suzanne, thank you for coming.
Nice to meet you.
I am delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
Suzanne is a practicing attorney in the Durham area of North Carolina. She concentrates in consumer law, is that right?
Correct.
She was a former legal aid attorney and is still engaged with legal aid in the volunteer program. Mm-hmm. So you're perfect for this process today. That's why I say we're lucky to have you here. So let's start by identifying what are the cases that fall into the consumer practice.
Well, legal aid handles all types of debt collections, foreclosures, repossessions, helping with exemption papers after judgment, all types of consumer cases.
And you mentioned foreclosures, and that's an area that I want to emphasize because we all know the impact the foreclosure crisis had in North Carolina.
Right.
Last year, legal aid handled over 1,500 cases that were about foreclosures. So when someone gets one of those awful notices of foreclosure and they call legal aid, what help can they get?
Legal aid will provide help at all levels of foreclosure. They can help work out a loan modification in some cases. They can provide Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which will halt a foreclosure and stop the sale of the home. And they provide representation at all levels of court, the clerk of court and superior court, to defend against the foreclosure proceeding itself.
And you mentioned bankruptcy. Does legal aid handle other types of bankruptcies?
Generally, legal aid limits itself to Chapter 13 bankruptcies. However, there are some volunteer attorneys as well as attorneys in private practice who agree to do Chapter 7 bankruptcies for reduced fees. So you should always ask to see if that's available.
That is a good example of the collaboration between legal aid and the private bar.
Right.
Which answers one of my questions. How is legal aid able to handle so many of these cases?
Right.
And going back to the repossession, are we talking about repossession of cars only?
No, legal aid also deals with repossessions of mobile homes.
And that is probably quite of an impact for a family, is the
Yes.
loss of the home.
Yes.
And many debtors unfortunately get sued, and they contact legal aid after they have received a summons and complaint. What services legal aid provides to them?
Legal aid will look at all of the documents to determine if there's anything that they can do to help. If it's appropriate, legal aid will step in and represent the consumer in court to defend against a debt collection, and to try, in a case of a repossession, to try to recover the vehicle or the mobile home.
It seems to me that always in this kind of cases, legal aid has two jobs. One is to represent in the traditional way, and the other one is to educate.
Right.
Are there any specific examples of how legal aid handles that part of its services?
Legal aid provides free clinics. For example, in the consumer area, many legal aid offices provide a clinic to help people fill out their own exemption paperwork after a judgment. Legal aid also provides written materials in the consumer area for credit reporting, for example. Legal aid provides written materials to help people dispute inaccuracies on their credit reports.
That's important. And when you mention exemptions, it reminds me of how important it is for people to complete those forms to protect their property.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And my experience at the bench is that sometimes people just don't know what their rights are.
Right.
Well, thank you. I think that's all we have for
You're
now.
welcome.
This gives us, at least it gives me a good idea of what legal aid does in this area. And for all of you that join us today, I thank you too. And look into the future, I invite you to come for more conversations with Ruth.